reviews, discussions, and theories about films in horror, sci-fi, and genre. This is the Horror Deconstruction. Like, share, and subscribe to hear more.
Merry Christmas! Happy Kwanzaa! Happy Hanukkah! What's up, everybody? It's the Horror Deconstruction. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, but most likely on YouTube. Give us a like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell icon. Hit that thumbs up. Let people know you listen to the show. It is the holiday season, and today is Christmas, at least in the U.S., where we want to say thank you for listening to us all this whole year. It's been a very interesting year for horror. It's probably one of the best years for horror, and I want to thank you for checking us out. And today we're going to be doing a very new entry into the horror genre for the Christmas time. It is called Christmas Bloody Christmas 2022. It's Christmas Eve and Tori just wants to get drunk and party, but when a robotic Santa Claus at a nearby toy store goes on haywire and begins a rampant killing spree through her small town, she's forced into a battle of survival. Directed and written by Joe Begos, which drives me nuts because I thought his name was Joe Bagos, but I guess that's what his name is pronounced like. Starring Riley Dandy, Sam Delick, Jonah Ray, as well as Abraham Ben Ruby. If you remember Parker Lewis Can't Lose, he was the big guy that I think he was a bully on that. It's a very ancient show. Anyway, back to Christmas Bloody Christmas. It is an indie film that was released on Shudder, and I think at the last minute they were trying to get it to get like Terrifier 2 numbers, but this wasn't going to happen for this one, unfortunately. That said, nonetheless, I enjoyed myself with this movie because it was Joe Begos has a great style, visually at least. I can't say I'm a giant fan of his other films. I did like his other films just because aesthetically they're really beautiful looking films. VFW, which was a film about like a sort of I don't even know how to explain if it's sort of in the future but in the present, where this super drug drives these drug people insane and they attack a bar, and it has a bunch of 1980s stalwart action heroes, and also has the guy who played Korich in Avatar, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, as a lead. It was fun, but it wasn't that great. So I think they tried to do their own Dusk Till Dawn, but in a very even smaller space. So it was like the budget really showed, and he doesn't really get big budgets on his films. Bliss I liked a lot. I hated the main character of that film. I've never hated a character like that more than in most films. Because I think my thing with Joe Begos movies is that he's really, for some reason, he's really bad at writing female characters that are at least likable. I don't know if, and I don't think it's because, they're powerful women. It's not. He just writes some like sort of shrilling witches. And like the guys are sort of whatever. They're just sort of like masculine kind of characters. This isn't some rant about women this and women should be equal. It's not that women should be equal. What I'm just saying is that in his films they're just kind of really badly written and cardboardy. But in Christmas Bloody Christmas, he does it good. He like the female character, the lead female character in this is great, and I was like really enjoying myself with her character. She felt realistic. She didn't come off as like this screaming banshee like his other fucking movies. She was a great lead, and she's played by Riley Dandy. She's a great actor. And her counterpart in the film is Sam Delick, who plays Robbie Reynolds. She plays Tori Toombs, and they play these sort of hipster. So here's the thing with this film. It's like I think he could actually direct, if he took his time to not dip his feet in the horror film. I think he can make a legit good drama film with characters talking. There's people that didn't like this aspect of the film. It actually made me like the characters more, because usually in horror films people don't talk. They just sort of say, "Hey, let's go get a car," and then they get a pickaxe up the ass like 5 minutes into the film. I'm not saying that I wouldn't mind having more, Santa Claus get quicker into the film, but I enjoyed Tori and Robbie's character interactions in the film. It really reminded me of Clerks Part 1, where they just sort of shoot the shit through the whole movie with pop reference. They're talking about like films and music in this movie, although they did say like there's some weird choices with good movies versus bad movies, but that's just my personal opinion. But they're fun. They're great. I enjoyed, it was like Pulp Fiction level type of chatting with each other. Not as slick as Pulp Fiction dialogue, but it felt realistic. So if you don't like hipster characters, like I'm not offended like by hipster characters in movies because they're hipster characters. So they're sort of hipster characters, but that cool rock and roll hipster kind of character. And I really cannot say enough about how much I enjoyed them talking to each other. This this is the first film in his series. Well, I've only seen two of his other films that felt like the characters actually could exist outside of their genre, because this is very much a genre film. And this movie was sold initially, it was pitched as a Silent Night, Deadly Night reboot or a sequel. And I don't know how that would work, because Silent Night, Deadly Night is really about like a psychopath. I don't know how with the further sequels, I heard it gets even worse. But in this, he was like, but he was so like, I heard an interview with him about it, and he was so cocksure about it, and I was like, oh brother, get off your like pedestal. I mean, this is a fun movie, but it's not everything's gold. But so this film, it reminded me of this bizarre pitch for Chopping Mall. I've only seen like the first hour, a half an hour or hour of Chopping Mall, which I liked. I got to get finished that movie. And in that movie, it's obviously about security robots killing these people that are trapped in a mall. There was a reboot or pitch for that film that they wanted to go to, which I kid you not, was the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Like, the only other stupidest shit than this was the stuff I heard about the actually made recent Black Christmas remake. Not the first remake, this remake. But this one, the pitch for the Chopping Mall was about haunted mannequins of dead slaves attacking people in the mall. And I was like, what the fuck? No wonder they didn't make that movie. It sounds ridiculous. If you called it like Killer Mannequins or something, fine, but Chopping Mall is about fucking robots. It's not about mannequins, and then you're like writing about slavery. I'm like, what the fuck is that about? Like, that you should take that a little bit more seriously with the context, because you're playing with, you know, issues and that. But speaking of, also, I didn't see the recent Black Christmas. I know I love the first Black Christmas from the 70s, and then the second one, or maybe it was an 80, I'm not sure. Very bad fan, excuse me, but I love that film. It's a great movie. And then the remake was in the 2010s or something, which people enjoyed because it's a little bit campy, but it stuck to, you know, it was like Scream, but that. And then in the new one, I think it was about, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling the newest version. I didn't see it, but I read the synopsis, and it's a very much a like strong female led type, like everything you would expect from when people complain about when you hear people complain about female empowerment movies, because the first movie was actual like female empowerment from what I saw. I don't know if it might depend on what a woman sees, but like there were women making decisions for themselves. You know, there was a guy telling his girl to not get an abortion if she was telling him to go fuck off. You know, that was her body. That's pretty, you know, revolutionary for that type of film back then. And in this one, it was about the newest one was about a bunch of like a fraternity of guys killing women, and I was like, and they get possessed by ghosts. I was like, oh boy, they really just did some. And the writer for the film, she got so much shit for it. It was one of the funniest things. But I mean, whatever. If you didn't like it, if you did like it, then whatever. But to me, that sounded like, keep at least a little sliver about what the original movie's about if you're gonna reboot it, you know. But what anyway? Off of that, Christmas Play Christmas. So this movie has good thing, you know, about this movie, which does help women. It lionizes and it normalizes cunnilingus. Good for them, and it also normalizes ass eating. Good for this movie. You don't see that much in this movie. It's literally a 4 or 3 minute sequence of a guy going down on a girl. So I'd say that's pretty powerful for this type of movie. Good for them, and ass eating. Good for them. Who's not a fan of that? And but let's get to the meat of the story. So there's and this is, listen, there's not a high budget on this film. The reason why this film looks good is because they shoot it on 16 millimeter. Looks fantastic. There's some pretty like bad films that are like, if you shot them really good, but this isn't a bad film, but I'm just saying there's a lot of films that you're like, oh boy, this is not good, but it's so beautiful looking. You watch it anyway. There's a couple of them off the top of my head that I'm like, oh yeah, but this is one of those type of films where it's good, but they could have worked on some things on this film that I think they could have done a lot better with this movie. First and foremost, there's like a Santa Claus that they have, the government, I mean not a government, but this corporation that made sort of defense robots, basically like Terminators, to send into other countries. They took whatever leftover ones they had and put them as Santa Clauses in stores, which makes no fucking sense. I guess you could look at it as black humor. I can't buy that for a second, but whatever. It's a movie about a robot Santa Claus. Anyway, so one obviously goes haywire in the store and kills people. But the bad thing is, the thing that really made this look cheap for me, the one thing that I think, like, I was fine with the movie. I enjoyed the movie. The one thing that drove me nuts with this fucking movie Abraham Ben Ruby plays this Santa Claus who's supposed to be like a robot, like, right? Make him look like a robot. Oh, the only thing Santa Claus is the face, right? The top of his brow, his eyes, and his nose. Make it look like a fucking robot. That would make it look creepy. Do you know what I mean? This just looks like a guy in a suit, and I cannot believe they would. And I'm sure there are, like, you know, costumes and makeup effects or androids that have fake skin, but there's no what they call uncanny valley. This looks like a guy in a suit, and to me that looks so fucking cheap. They should have hired. And I like Abraham Ben Ruby. He was in Bliss. He was in that for a little bit. Yeah, he must be friends with their director, or, you know, he just liked him, and he's great in the role. He's just a very tall man that kicks the shit out of people. But fix the face. Had they made the face a little bit more iconic and a little bit more robotic looking, it would be great. I don't understand how, like, shittier Santa movies have better, like, Santas in it than this one. Like, it's so obvious to make the face, and I'm like ranting about it, but that would have made this so much better, because Chucky is a uncanny valley character. Jason's not really, because he's, you know, they have faces, but they have very recognizable faces, like Art from Terrifier. Recognizable faces. Make this Santa recognizable. But you can see that there wasn't a giant budget for this film, because around the end, when he is killed, or when he's being destroyed as a robot, that's when he looked coolest, because his face is all like destroyed, and his eyes are these two green like beams that are shooting out of his face, which is great. But by then, he's just literally like a puppet. They couldn't even have like a guy. They couldn't even have a guy in a suit with a whole bunch of garbage effects on him to make it like he's destroyed. They literally had to turn it into an actual robot, and it looks so cheap. It's so cheap, but I don't know. They should have had a better grasp on the actual robot character itself. They should have fixed his face, and they could have had a guy in a suit with a robot entrails around him to move around, because then that would make sense. But it's like they just, like, all of a sudden he lost all movement. He was moving around like a person, but he gets so fucked up that he just starts moving like a hand puppet at the end. And that I was like, oh boy. But anyway, how's the action? The action's fun. It's a car chase. There's a bunch of stupid asshole characters that don't believe the main character, just like any other thing. The setting is great. I wondered if they actually used a snow machine for the film, because it's snowing throughout the whole film, and I don't know how much that cost for a movie. It looked great, beautiful setting, matches the level of camera work that they have in the film. He really knows how to shoot a film. This is the thing: if the guy Damien Leone, if he had the skills of Joe Begos as a director visually, he's great with art and stuff like that. That's what I'm saying, like art's character design and everything. But if he had like the editing and direction skills of Joe Begos, Terrifier would be 100 times better. I like Terrifier too, actually. It might be my favorite horror film of the year, but I think, or of this year, 2022. But I think if he had Joe Begos' skill, like he just cleaned himself up a little bit, I think that would be fucking incredible. So that's my thing. So Joe Begos is great visually directing in a film, and Leone is great with gore and all that stuff. And the reason why I say that is because the gore in here is surprisingly, like, not that good. Like, I was surprised that this movie wasn't as a like a bloody. The movie's called Christmas Bloody Christmas, and there's gore in it, and there's people getting slammed up and stuff like that. But it's not fucking graphic, and I cannot fathom that with how Terrifier 2. The reason why people love Terrifier 2 is because of the fucking insane gore in that movie, and this movie is even smaller than Terrifier and should have 3 times the gore in it to make it, you know, a little bit better. Not that it was fine. The movie's serviceable. I enjoyed the movie. Like I'm saying, it sounds like everything I'm saying is bad. I'm just pointing out some stuff that bugged me with this movie. If it had the gore of Terrifier, because it's a robot attacking somebody. Do you know what I mean? So they don't care. It's like, you ever seen those videos where machines like kill people, or like people get killed by like presses and stuff like that, and workshops? You had the opportunity to do. There's a part where the robot Santa makes a guy shoot himself in the face with a shotgun, and the guy falls like nothing. Like, if you get hit with a shotgun, your head, the top of your head falls off. Like, it comes off of your head. And they didn't do that. And I was like literally like, whoa, that sucked. Like, that was not good. But so that aside, so my only 2 big thing about this is that, and those are 2 things that should sell a horror film, is the recognizability of the main villain of the film, you know, the antagonist. Make a Santa that looks cool. All you had to do was get a faceplate for him. That's all you needed. And the second thing is the gore. Make the gore plentiful. Make it look great, guys. Other than that, I thought the acting was really good. I mean, it's not like genius writing and like what happens later on when the robot's attacking them. Because every other character is sort of thrown off. Like, I didn't even recognize Jonah Ray. I think that's the comedian. He's sort of like one of those new type of comedians. If you know Jonah Ray, he was in the recent Mystery Science Theater 3000. He's a comedic stand-up comedian. Not my type of comedy, but you know, he lost weight, so he looks nothing like how I recognize him. So I was like, oh shit, that's Jonah Ray in the movie. He's there for 5 seconds. He eats his girlfriend's ass. I don't know anybody else in the movie. Dora Madison, I guess. I don't know who that. I don't. Is that the girl from the other film? Yeah, I think that. No, I don't know if that's her. But anyway, she was in Bliss. She was the main character in Bliss. I didn't even fucking recognize her in this movie, to be honest with you. And she was oh god, did I hate her character. But everything works for this film. You know, it's a fun little slasher film. It's cheap, it's fast, it's dirty, but it needed more gore. It needed a recognizable Santa. But other than that, it's fun. The acting is great in it. The characters are believable. There's one I just kept thinking about this one guy who was supposed to meet the main character just to get laid, but I think he had like 3 or 4 kids. So they keep talking about him, and you're like, shit, what happened to that character? But it's just so funny. So that guy got his life saved by getting cock blocked. So he should thank that guy who ended up getting killed himself. That was interesting that they killed that other guy lead. I figured that was gonna happen, but I was like surprised that they actually did do it. But I enjoyed it. I really had a good time with this film. It's quick, it's fast, it's on Shudder. I would say watch it if you're listening right now. It's Christmas Day as I'm recording this. If you're watching on Christmas, throw it on. I did like Violent Night more than this film because Violent Night, which probably had 100 times the budget of this movie, but Violent Night was graphically violent for a mainstream film, which drives me crazy because Christmas Bloody Christmas is as indie as it gets, and it's not as gory as that. I can't understand that. But Violent Night was gorier, had a great Santa and fantastic acting, but obviously they had 100 times the budget. But people can make a lot of good things if they're inventive with a small budget. And the film visually of Christmas Bloody Christmas is it's a beautiful looking film. It looks film. Do you know what I mean? It looks like film. It's great. And you can't appreciate that enough. If people who hate digital, I mean, digital sometimes works. I think Violent Night is shot digitally, but it looks like a film. And this looks like a film. So, I mean, it's great. But I think everything's great. Jeff Daniel Phillips as the sheriff. He has an interesting, 5 seconds in the movie, but he sort of just kind of vanishes in the movie. But I give them credit for making this movie. It looks like it was fun making it. And I think that the 2 leads in the films are excellent. And that's all I got to say. I enjoyed the movie, so I would give it a 7.5. That's a bad thing because I'm sort of comparing it to Violent Night. And Violent Night was a really high score this year. But I think that this one works as a slasher film. Is it as memorable as the other slasher films like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or I guess Christmas Evil, which I haven't seen, movies like that? Not really, but it's fun. And I think that Bigos stepped up his filming game because this feels much bigger than his last 2 efforts. And I think that you will enjoy watching this movie. It's fun. It's a fun ride, and it's an unstoppable robot Santa trying to destroy somebody, and they do it. He keeps coming back and back, and that was impressive. So with that, I like I say, I give it 7.5 out of 10. Going from eating ass to eating grass in hell. And with that, this has been the Horror Deconstruction.